Hello, hello. I think I'm live. Hold on. You humans who watch these, or maybe it's just robots in the future watching humans. I don't know. I'm feeling very, very dystopian today, as on most days. But I'm feeling just, I don't know. I'm feeling just caught caught in a trap of contentment and consumption, with also just a side of me that is it's really interested and curious in creativity and the mystery, the adventure, even in conversation. That's what I lean to talking about in whatever form of that. I I'm very, I don't know, I'm very prone. I don't know, uh, the conversations that surround me in a day-to-day existence. It's just things I've thought about with. It's like things I don't want to vocalize. It's like talking about my job and the details of it, or talking about the details of how much I paid for something. Like, I don't care enough to really fucking discuss that. First of all, I don't know. I like talking about emotions and feelings and how things make me feel, rather than trying to steal a sort of feeling from things and make it this sort of performative extension of myself. One of the main concepts I'm working with in a few of my writings has to do with the dominant drug of a society and what that does. What the dominant drug usually does, or shapes, or impacts, or how it impacts a society. Which, I mean, I view these sort of screens as drugs now, in a very dramatic sense. They're very useful tools at the same time, so it's hard to, you know, decide where the line is drawn. But I don't know. I think I should start being more extreme in my ideas, or as extreme in my, sort of opinions or ideas that I have, because I don't speak from fact or right or wrong. I speak simply from just observing my feelings and sort of witnessing the happening on a local level, as much as a global level, if I could try, or a larger level of humanity and civilization. I think a lot of people that I've ran into throughout my time were very necessary for me in my growth as an artist, or as a spiritual person, um, as someone who just was very curious always, but it always felt like I was the most curious. Felt like I always had to to fuel the conversation, to ask the questions while also dancing along the answers. It's very tiring. It's very tiring to be around people who don't really express themselves, but they want the answers, but they're afraid to ask themselves the questions, afraid to ask the world the questions, and I think they're afraid of the response they might get. I think the mind is very unknown, as do a lot of people. But what's even, I think, more unknown is, say you're a hunter, right? You have to observe your prey. A lot of species can feel, when they're being hunted. You can feel usually when you're being watched in some sense, or you get a feeling like that. And I guess that repetitiveness of I hope she doesn't start yelling. She's a yeller. Yeah, she's a yeller. I hope you heard that. Just a neighbor, but the prey develops a sort of instinctive that I could be getting watched. I could be getting hunted. Right now, let's kind of flip that into the sense of the hunter being the camera, the prey being us. Now, what's interesting is behind the camera, there's always usually another human. So it's kind of an observation of observation, a witnessing of witnessing. However, where you sort of, the hunter has to get the prey, right, and to eat. Where the camera gets the human is in their attention and intention. Now, in a very dramatic sense, very dramatic, what does that do? Dramatic and a simple sense. Like, what does, when you can sort of cease the person's attention and intention, and in theory, direct where the camera is pointed to get the attention focused on whatever, right? What does that do to a society that's embedded in that? Let alone, or how do I say this? We have that concept of cameras everywhere. Of all, even like the cameras in your phone and whatnot. Your friends recording you on social media to the Walmart camera or the flock camera, you know. But if you go down the channels of cameras or whatever, social media alone is a walking platform to vocalize your image or what you're seeing. Same with X and YouTube and whatnot. But what I'm suggesting is, when we're in constant thought about being recorded, when we're in constant thought about being seen by an audience, I mean, we have to start looking at the effects of that. And I notice there's a lot of topics of conversation now that just people lecturing, same as me, with an audience, first of all. And I can usually tell when, obviously, it's from my eyesight viewpoint, so I'm not speaking in truth, but I feel as if I can usually tell when people's thoughts are embedded in a certain way, and when people are actually able to like hold contradicting thoughts in their head simultaneously. And I guess, the majority of people just can't contemplate multiple things at once, or they can't comprehend the idea of two things being true at the same time. And I'm not even sure if like we can really get down to the bare bones of what I'm talking about, because another thing social media and the internet is doing is it's people assume that people are doing the work of, or like people assume that content is being made, and there's people downloading their perspectives about certain things. But I realize there isn't much of it on a local level. Everything is for the global audience. And obviously, I'm speaking in a generalization here because I know I see, accounts all the time talking about local things and local events. And it's very useful. But the sad fact of the matter is that the way our world is so systemized and categorized, and people almost are addicted to form or addicted to reason. A lot of these niches of a creative expression of all the different sorts have become just the grounds of a certain ideology, where it takes like the access point of the niche is an ideological like emblem, virtue signaling, you could say, but it's very extreme now. Like there really can't be a like something I find very interesting is like punk rock or hippies, right? Both ideologies are like anti-system, anti-government, right? Now consider the fact that people in these ideologies now around me, I'm in 2026, right? Who claim to be punk rock or a punk or a sort of self-proclaimed hippie or whatever, self-proclaimed communist of all sorts. Yeah, I'm not, this is a generalization as well, but it's also a very. It's just I think it's what's happening. But anyway, what was I saying? Oh, but a lot of these like punkers, right? These hippies, were so a lot of them where these niches first got their roots was in anti-establishment, anti-government, anti the system, anti the man, anti-money, anti-capitalism, right? And in that way, the idea of those groups, for instance, are very much the content of the so-called normies who are now in this extreme form of entertainment and convenience, and like we can just order anything and instantaneous grab reality and shove it in our face. The meat and potatoes, the content of the consumer, the culture is fixated on these labels, where the label is more important than what's happening, right? And there's a sort of feeling I get every time I go out and witness a show or try to start dialogue with some other people, is that they're all ideologically frozen in this sort of state of like being like, it's like Medusa fucking, you're looking at Medusa, you get turned to stone. It's what it feels like with ideology. And for me, for me, the frontier, the rebellion, true freedom is everywhere if you decide or allow it to be. And I feel as if these sorts of get-togethers of humans are not fixated on transcending anything. Not they're not focused on transcending or changing. They're focused on contentment in their own imaginings. And when you get a bunch of people really fixated on the label, you get very loud, very loud forms of music, obnoxious forms of music, where you're 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 in an extreme form of like sound and like aesthetic, where it's like, where the fuck am I? We're in this hyper futuristic time of sounding very like digital and clean and whatnot. We're like you're in a metal show where everything's what I mean, like you're fucking screaming, or you're in a rap fucking concert, or you're listening to rap music and it's, you can't even make out four fucking words because they don't know more than fucking eight words, like they're mumbling and shit. And I think this is the cause of a civilization going beyond the written word, moving in towards more of an image based thing. It's kind of mythological, medieval, you could say. You know, when we move from the written word to the image can be very, what up, Felix? The image, how do I say it? I think when you move from the written word to the image, as a civilization, you 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 begin to experience very unspeakable things, or very unknowable, unsayable things, and I guess the image alone can always be changed. You can change the color, you can change the content of the image, but people are getting the mental image, the I know there's different words for it, but the religious outlook, the spiritual outlook, um, the political outlook, those sorts of images that are being held up, it's all being distributed through the screen now, and so are all our words. So I guess in these forms of expression, creative expression, niches on the internet, the localized music scenes and whatnot, why they're filled with such fake fake feelings. You do vertical shit, but horizontal is a vibe. Okay, I can try it. Fake feelings is a good phrase. Yeah. I, I don't know. It feels fake because I think we're all just afraid of being vulnerable and like dancing without the camera being on us or something. Real ones find the horizontals. Literally you're the first person who has interacted with one of these. I'm gonna be honest, and I that's kind of my idea. I think this we could get into talking about the streamer culture. Um, okay, yeah, better audience, yeah, vertical, yeah. That's a very real thing. Short form content and like the vertical streams, like I don't know. I can't watch them. I don't like them. I like seeing, I like say I'm watching a gamer, or some streamer who's watching a game. I can't see the whole game if I'm vertical. You know what I mean? But like I like streaming. It's a very real thing. I think it's very interesting how it's taken shape. But yeah, doom scrolling is. Yeah, I mean, notice what they're talking about on vertical streams. It's more like interactive, like, and they're moving at the screen and whatnot, and they're fucking, reaching at you, and they're like throwing loud words, and it's more of a theatrical moment. I've also heard streamers though who who genuinely hate their audience because they I don't know, they just react to a certain like doom scrolling way. I don't know what the word is, but I feel like if I'm streaming, I don't want to hate my audience. I'd love to talk to my audience and start dialogue. And this is one of my big beliefs is like on like such a extreme level, we have such access to like conversation and to world building and like to like planning. And it just feels like everyone's passively viewing everything. You know what I mean? It's so odd. I hate passive consumption. Spiritual renaissance. Okay. I'm gonna write it down. If I give you any advice, it's to allow yourself to have access to multiple things. Have all the notebooks, have all the books. Yes, analog. I mean, it's just allowing yourself to have the access because I was realizing growing up that I was just never given the access. You never denied, but I was just never like it was never there. You know what I mean? And you know what's always there? You know what always has been there? The screen. The screen has been there. Spiritual renaissance. Yeah, there's a few good talkers online. I don't even know who I like talking to. I'm so or not talking to, but who I like listening to. I go in many directions. I think if you're more of like an old school, like listening to older people, mansions. Okay. What kind of music are you into? I'm into I don't know. I'm into everything. Okay. Like pose. Isn't that the? Yeah, no, I know that. I know the took a pill in Ibiza, but I know he got like sober and like found God or something. I'm pretty sure, like found some spiritual. I don't know, spiritual renaissance. I don't know. Yeah, music's a great thing. I listen to a lot of different things. I don't know what to throw at you. I would listen to Molchat Doma. I'm gonna type that for you. Molchat Doma is really good. I don't know if you're into post punk or that type of shit. It's pretty silent at home. It translated to silent at home. It's okay. Never mind. That's weird. Well, I didn't know it did that. I typed it in and it translated back to English. They're like a Belarusian band or something. a Russian band, but I like what they got going on. We need more localized music that isn't fucking driven by money or driven by like alcohol sales. I don't know how old you are, but so I all the music places and like even a lot of the fucking just I've been to a couple art shows and people are still like prone to just say, hey, let's go drinking after this. Beaten Bird Plume. Luckily, we're typing, and I can always come back to this. This is great. Local is tasty. Local's where it's at, always. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I try to just write things. I have a few notebooks. I'm in like I write very sporadically. I'm writing like a novel. Yeah, there are a lot of alternatives. Alcohol to me is like a one and done thing. Like I always think about it, and I don't know. I always think about it, and then when I do it, I regret it immediately. But yeah, no, I'm writing a. I don't know. I'm just writing really, but I'm writing a like a dystopian novel as well as just like a collection of thoughts. You know what I mean? I don't know. I was seeing if I can't just I don't know start something. Start a little. I think this is what we should do is just start like get allowing ourselves access to just to words to anything. Hmm. The screen is the treadmill for the eyes, which extends into the mind, and then therefore into the field of play. Barry. Revolution is a great fucking show. I don't know why they canceled. Well, I kind of understand why they canceled it. It was a little too head on. Barry. Okay. My dad put me on Revolution. Revolution was really great. I'm not gonna lie. I'm trying to think what I like movie wise about like dystopia and dystopians. Weirdly, I really enjoy The Giver. I haven't watched it in a while, but The Giver I thought was quite interesting. I don't know if you've read Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. That is a great book. 1984, George Orwell. The basics are really great. Those two are like your foundations. I need to. I'm not gonna sit here and just fucking lie to you and be like, "Oh, I read. I have all these books and I read them." Because let's be real, like, I do have a fair amount of books, but reading for someone who's been born into the screen world, it's kind of hard sometimes. Like, I do have a struggle of just sitting there and concentrating, but like I said, you have to allow yourself to even just have any sort of access. I'm trying to read more, like, I'm trying to read different things, like things that, you know, not a story, but like information as well. Um, I do like fantasy shit, like sci fi, fantasy, horror a little. Um, right now I'm reading a book. Let me grab it. I don't even know. I think I found this at Goodwill or maybe some flea market. Decisive Battles of the Civil War. I I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I heard in a lecture that the cause of the Civil War, or the true cause of the Civil War, was or like maybe the hidden environment, the hidden environment of the Civil War, like and why it really, you know, turned out the way it was the sort of telecommunication, like the telegraph, and I I try to like look at wars or conflicts in the context of like how information is being distributed or how communication is being distributed. And in a weird way, I think when you look at like the written word, the print, in itself, you have to look at the word and then read the word, right? Okay. Now, with the screen, we look at the screen or into the screen, you could almost say, and we have to like not even have to. We sort of lose connection to like our nervous system, and our field of vision and our nervous system sort of extends into the screen, and we become the screen. And I think with the implementation of AI into all sorts of things like algorithms and catering you to, maybe even like you being catered here to by an AI algorithm, I think in a sense, the written word is losing its meaning because we're looking at images before we're reading, before we're even considering, the context of the word. Um, and I don't know. I think a guy named Marshall McLuhan calls it calls the screen something about like an electric manuscript, um, or he calls it calls it the global village, instantaneous communication, really. Um, and, and to like tie it back to this book about war or whatever, war in itself is almost from like identification, like the seeking of identity, the seeking of an audience, like being seen and being heard. And I've been contemplating like why war would start now. And it's because the screen, in a very dramatic sense, is the is the fuel, is the fire, the fuel, the judge, jury, executioner for belief and reason. Before, the screen really got implemented into anything, uh, before the screen at all, the image, the word, people who made decisions, it took functionality of communication. Now, there's no adventure to the reason. There's no adventure to the question. There's only questions and answers, ones and zeros, because everything's instantaneous. There's no like traveling amongst uh, a landscape and finding obstacles, right? Which I think when you kind of take what I just marked out and paint it onto the narrative or the mental image of the culture, how can you write something like or how can you have a religion or a philosophy or an ideology or a system in a world where everyone sort of can control their God, their their reason, their questions, the content of what they're hearing and not hearing. And just as like the North and South sort of formed, the sides, the Union and the Confederates, right? Everyone is in their own individual state of that, of deciding their own civil war, their own like purge like mindset, because we're all hunters of attention and intention now. We're not hunters of prey, of, seeking our food. We are hunters of status and attention, of being seen, of an audience. There's a really interesting group of, or a certain tribe of Native Americans, Indians, whatever you want to call them, that I love reading about, or I love learning about. And it's the Comanches. The Comanches were very. They didn't. I don't. I'm pretty sure they didn't write down much, but they were very. They were very fast horse riders, um, and they were some of the first, if not the first, Native Americans. If I do believe I'm right, to be able to like shoot bows and arrows while on horseback, which completely changed the playing field of, I guess, the frontier, the West, right? How can we become Comanches of this war, of the digital war? And in a way, I think it's this. It's remaking the image, designing the room as you will. You know what I mean? Designing it all, creating it, holding it, and not defending it in a sense of this is mine, this is mine. Everything is of everything. It's all kind of interconnected. I'm not saying that you can have what I have, but I'm saying you can obtain the same level of having it, right? I'll end it here. I'll end it here. A world made for everyone is a world made for no one. Carry on. Peace.